As it is Halloween, I thought it would be an amazing idea to share one of my favourite mythical figures who has appeared in many countries, such as Irish, Scottish, German, English, and American folklore. We will be talking about the Headless Horseman. The Headless Horseman is a mythical figure who has appeared in folklore around the world since the Middle Ages. He's been usually displayed as a rider on horseback who is missing his head. Our first folklore tale comes in from America. The tale is named The Legend of the Headless Horseman, also known as the Headless Hessian of the Hollow. The story begins in Sleepy Hollow, New York during the American Revolutionary War. Traditionally, folklore holds that the horseman was a Hessian Trooper. A Hessian Trooper is a German soldier that fought for the British, who was killed during the Battle of White Plains in the 28th of October 1776, who was decapitated by an American cannonball, and the shrapnel remains of his head were left on the battlefield while his comrades hastily carried his body away. Eventually they buried him in the cemetery of the Old Dutch Church of Sleepy Hollow, from which he would rise and become a malevolent ghost, furiously seeking his lost head and wielding a jack-o'-lantern as a temporary replacement and/or weapon. Modern versions of the story reference his ride to Halloween around the time which the battle took place. We have another American folklore tale of the horseman, but this time coming from South Texas, the bandit who would become the horseman. As the story goes, in the mid-1800s, a Mexican bandit by the name of Vidal, he was famous for stealing horses. One day he would steal horses from two Texas Rangers, Cree Taylor and Bigfoot Wallace. The Texas Rangers tracked him down and decided to make an example of him by beheading him and tying him to a horse along with his decapitated head. The horse would roam freely, horrifying all who would encounter it. From then on, the horse and the headless rider roamed the area, spotted many times. It was said that bullets had no effect. So the legend of El Mato spread. It was said that the horse was finally captured along with Vidal's wounded body. He was buried, but more alleged sightings continued on, spreading his legend. Now taking a look at the Irish folklore of the Headless Horseman. The Dullahan is a headless demonic fairy, usually riding a horse and carrying his head under his arm. He wields a whip made from a human corpse's spine. When the Dullahan stops riding, a death occurs. The Dullahan calls out the name of which the person immediately dies. In another version, he is the headless driver of a black carriage. The Dullahan's mouth is usually in a hideous grin that touches both sides of the head. Its eyes are constantly moving around to see across the countryside even during the darkest nights. Now moving on to the Scottish folklore of the Headless Horseman. Most prominent Scot tales of the Headless Horseman consider a man named Ewan was decapitated in the Clan battle at Glen on the Isle of Mull. The battle denied him any chance to become a chieftain, and both him and his horse are headless. There are many accounts of him still haunting the area to this day. Now moving on to German folklore. One is set in East Dresden, Germany. This tale is of a woman from Dresden going out early on a Sunday morning to gather acorns in a forest at a place called Lost Waters. She hears a hunting horn, then she hears it again. She turns around and sees a headless man in a long grey coat sitting on a grey horse. In another German tale, the Headless Horseman called the Wild Huntsman blows a horn which warns all hunters not to ride the next day, because if they do, they will meet an accident. In some German versions of the Headless Horseman, he seeks out perpetrators of capital crimes. In others, he has a pack of black hounds with tongues of fire. Our last story is in English folklore. Sir Gawain and the Green Knight is an English poem. In this medieval story, the Green Knight rides into King Arthur's court and dares any knight to behead him with his own axe. Sir Gawain accepts the Green Knight's challenge. After beheading the Green Knight, he simply picks up his head, reminding him that he will come back in 1 year and 1 day to return the same blow, riding out of King Arthur's court while holding his head. I hope you enjoyed the many folklore tales of the Headless Horseman. Tell me if I've missed any, or any of your own that you would like to share. As well, I hope you have a happy Halloween.